Hi, this is Jack Stanley. And you know, I always like to have what I like to call bathrobe conversations. Kind of folksy, kind of friendly. Kind of like sitting by the fireplace, sitting in your bathrobe, having a conversation, talking about this or that. Much more intimate, much more friendly. It's like we are sitting here together and having a conversation. And I wish more people would maybe do this. Simple conversations. Reminisce and talk and share and think of ideas in an informal way. What I find really interesting as I'm sitting here is I was watching some videos of old friends who were performers who are no longer here. And it was nice to see them. It's an interesting thing that modern technology affords you the opportunity to say hi now and then to those who are no longer here. And if there is film or video of them, it's a wonderful thing to sit there and you have this wonderful feeling inside. It's like you've been given this wonderful gift to spend a little bit of time with that loved one, that friend, that partner, that artist, whatever it may be. We are very, very blessed in this, the 21st century, and in the 20th, I would say the second half of the 20th century, that you finally had more ready availability to film with sound. Before the 1950s, private films, more often not, were silent. Of course, talking pictures came in the 1920s, but the thing is that for the common man, sound did not really come in until well into the 1950s. And it's a wonderful thing, especially when video came out, and beta and VHS, and you could make recordings, sound recordings. I remember working on the really early tapes. This was in the 1970s. And it was reel-to-reel, which is what those tapes are, the betas or the VHSs. We used to have these big reels and we'd film on them. They were black and white. It was kind of neat. We made lots of various recordings. None of them exist. Be interesting to see if they did, but they don't. I'm sure many of us have made recordings, talking with our friends, perhaps reminiscing to share information with those that follow us. I'll always remember the first recording I ever made was not a visual recording, it was just a tape recording. And I had a proclivity when I was a kid. I had this amazing memory. I still have a pretty good memory. But I could memorize speeches and information. It was almost effortless. And so in 1968, 50 years ago now, the school in which I was going to asked if I would make a series of recordings of speeches, and from memory, I gave all the presidents the dates they were born, when they served, when they died, a Gettysburg Address, and all kinds of stuff like that. And I was a young kid. You know, I was I was just like 10 years old. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. And they just kind of all were just marveling at what I was doing. And I said, well, there's nothing unusual about this. Well, it was my thing that I was good at. I was dreadful at sports, and some people excel at sports, some people excel in math, but I had a remarkable memory. And it's something that I truly treasure to this very day. And it's interesting to note that my father is very much the same. Whenever I talk to him and I mention something, he comes right back up. He has a memory of all kinds of stuff. We talk about the American presidency, and he starts talking about Franklin Pierce, or he said, let's go to 13, Millard Fillmore. And that's pretty good. And he knows everything in order. He has the same kind of ability that I have, and I obviously got that from him. And it was fun to make those recordings. And about 10 years ago, I went to my old school in search of, to see if perhaps by some bizarre chance that recording might still exist. 1968, that's a long time ago. Well, I went back to where I went to school, and there was no tape. It was worse than that. There was no school. It was all gone. They had torn down the school. Everything was gone. So that tape long since has been put into a landfill. It's interesting. I would encourage everybody here, if you have children, have them make recordings, make videos. If they do something or something special, make it a special event for them. And also for all of us who are getting a little older, we know people that are much older than us. Talk to them. Record them. Debrief them. It's a wonderful gift to give the future. And also, if you know things or you've experienced things, make recordings about it. Talk about it. I'm always thinking about the various remarkable things that I had been privy to, and things I saw and experienced. And it's fun to share that. Now, I have a young nephew who has a bit of the same proclivity and has this ardent desire to understand history. And so I sit there and I chit-chat with him. And he has that kind of interesting curiosity. And he's young. He's just a teenager. And it takes a while for it to eventually develop. But if you see stuff like that, mathematics, theatrics, singers, whatever it may be, record it. It's an amazing thing, even for yourself. It's fascinating to experience you 30 years after, and then the you of today listens to the you of then. It's a fascinating thing. It also shows how we get more decrepit as time goes on, too. But I think it's a wonderful thing to share. And you know something? As I said, it was emotional. I was looking at those dear friends, and tears were going down my eyes. And I was seeing dear people that I knew, and they're so long gone. But through the aid of technology, I got to experience them a little bit and feel them a little bit. And so they kind of came back for a while. And that's a beautiful thing. So this little bathrobe conversation, not really on much of anything, but I'm just thinking here at 6:40 in the morning that it's good to capture as much as you can. Because you know something? We never ever truly miss something until it's gone. And that's true of so many different things. I was looking at film of the old Met. You know, the old Met got torn down in the 1960s. Terrible, terrible thing. Rudolph Bing did not want to save it. I remember Jerome Hines talking about that. He was part of a committee to try to save the old Met, and Rudolph Bing said, "You'll have another opera company in there, and we don't want competition." He said, "Tear it down." And that it was torn down. Terrible crime. We had Pennsylvania Station in New York City. And I will tell you that Pennsylvania Station was grand railroad station. It was much larger than Grand Central in New York City. And it was torn down, not because it was falling apart, but just torn down because it was the thing to do. I like to exhume the individual who made that decision and slap them, to tell you the truth. But there is some film of it. There is some film of the old Met, not a lot. And that's the thing that you always want to capture and share and let future generations experience. I think that's really important, because we really don't think of the future. We don't give it a great deal of thought of people in the future until we reach a point where a good deal of what we experienced in our past is gone. So get your cameras going. Record stuff. Share stuff. I think it's one of the greatest gifts you can give anyone. Your family, your friends, and most importantly, posterity.